So in further Andre 3000 news, recently, I think this was like last week, Andre and Toure talked with each other. It's kind of an interesting interview too, because you can tell Andre during the interview was like just walking around, because there's times where he's like, sounds like you could hear cars and stuff, and it's like he was talking to people. But in this interview, there was one particular part that's kind of been getting a little bit of news as well. This album will not count towards his albums on his deal, which I believe is with Epic. So it's kind of an interesting thing that you can have an album do super well, but he'll explain kind of why.
They congratulated on the process. They congratulated on what the work was, but contractually, it's very interesting. My label will not count this album against my contract.
Oh, you're still under the same Outkast deal?
No, this is as a solo artist. Yeah, I mean, we're still, it's two different contracts. There's Outkast and then there's solo.
Wait, you have a solo deal with Epic and they're not counting New Blue Sun?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
How do we do that?
Yeah, I didn't understand it at first. We were trying to find ways around it, but I understand it in a way too, because if I'm on the other side, like I always try to put myself on the other side. I think my attorney explained it in this way, that it was invented in the 70s, maybe, when artists were trying to get out their deals. So they were just pretty much turning in anything.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some type of legal stipulation that stops from you doing that. So it's something where it says the next recording has to be 90% like the recording before it.
Dang.
You see what I'm saying?
That's in your solo deal.
It's everybody's deal. They don't know it because most people are not doing this kind of thing, but it stops you from turning in hand claps, 10 tracks of hand claps.
Right.
And I get it. But Sylvia and the team, they've been so supportive. They know I'm not turning like a hand clap album. They get it.
Yeah.
But as a business, this is kind of like the stance that they took, And to be quite honest, like I'm not hurrying trying to get out of my deal. It's not like I'm trying to let's hurry up and get out and then, I'm about to put out this rap album.
Right.
No, I don't have a rap album, none of that kind of shit. So it's not, I just felt like I wish it would count. But I think it's interesting news that artists should hear that this album is not counting.
Well,
it kind of makes sense though, the way he put it, because say one of us go get a record deal and they signed us based off of our talent that we had, and we gave them one album with that specific realm of talent, and then we followed it up with Jay Moore sings the blues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or sitting there playing the piano or something like that. That's not what you got your record deal for.
Right.
So I mean, that makes sense in a semantics, so to speak. But I almost was going to say maybe he did that to try to count something towards his deal, but he answered that question by saying that he wasn't trying, he's not in a hurry to get out of the deal. But now that's very interesting though, that they can still hold you to that though, because it almost seems that, okay, so I put out this album, doesn't count towards my points or toward my album releases, but it's still under your house and you're still benefiting from it.
Yep. But also, like, it's obviously doing well because it's nominated for multiple Grammys.
Right.
So you would think that
there'd be a clause for that. Or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if I'm Stax, part of me is like, to your point, it's doing well. You guys are doing well off of it, and I'm getting Grammy nominations. Why wouldn't you want this to count? Yeah. But
that goes back to how Lupe Fiasco.
Okay.
Remember, he was putting out albums trying to get out of his deal, and he was still rapping, but you could tell that the passion wasn't in there the same way that it was prior. Just trying to hurry up and get done with the deal. Yeah. So I don't know. At least he was rapping though.
I wonder what he has left, or what are the specifics left on
like his deal?
Yeah, his individual deal, his solo deal. Like what are his?
I'm not even
to fulfill it.
I'm not even sure it's a solo deal.
No, he said it was.
He said it was two separate ones.
Well, he also clarified too, and he said, "Well, as part of like kind of the Outkast deal or something." I don't honestly know because he's never released a solo rap album, so.
Well, I don't know how they counted. I don't know how they specifically counted that Outkast release when it was one Big Boy and one Andre album, though.
But that was like 20 years ago.
But they still under contract. They haven't released an album since then, other than Idlewild.
Idlewild, yeah.
And that was more of a compilation.
Soundtrack. Yeah.
Frank Zappa, I'm not sure who was familiar with him or not.
Yep.
Like, don't eat the yellow snow.
He literally was one of those people who, like, he asked, like, how many albums do I have left on my contract? And they're like 3. He's like, cool. And then he just goes in and hands them like the master recordings for 3 albums. Now, I don't know what was on in those records, but like, I think that's the sort of thing that Andre's talking about, the precedent that was set with people just turning in any damn thing. I mean, like, think about it when Marvin Gaye was on Motown and he had to do Hear My Dear. Which is like loved now a lot more than it was when it came out, you know, and it was just like, you just made a double album to satisfy your divorce, you know, and there's no singles on it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a precedent for, you know, record companies kind of covering their ass, if you will, for artists just turning in any old thing to satisfy the deals that they got. Now, mind you, people used to sell or sign rather 17 album deals. Like,
we got you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, if you look at like a group like the Temptations, they might have put out 2 full-length albums and a Christmas album in 1 year.
True.
You know, and so it was just kind of crazy, like the pace at which people had to work to even be considered to satisfy their contractual agreement with these major record companies. Like I said, I'm never surprised when I hear about record company hijinks.
Yeah.
And the things that they still do to create a system to where, you know, they're creating revenue off of your talent, and like they're going to find a way to make sure you continue to create revenue. Luckily, really, Andre is not in that situation to where he just has to do this to live. He doesn't have to rap or play the flute to eat.
That's a good point.
You know, but there are some people who are like, all right, well, I got to get back in the studio so I can at least try to maybe pay for the last 2 or 3 records that I still owe on. They keep advancing me money. Yeah. And, you know, they keep giving me these loans that I cannot pay back. But part of the reason you can't pay the loan back is because, you know, they dictate how much the dollars you generate are worth to you to pay the loans back. You know, it'd be one thing if like it was an actual loan and say I take out a loan for $10,000. Okay, I can go work at said job, you know, and say I'm making $20, $25 an hour. Then I can really figure out, okay, how quickly I'll be able to put money aside and make the monthly payments or if I want to pay it off all at once. Crazy thing about the record industry, because whenever they talk about it, like, you know, these record companies are banks, is okay, say they lay out $100,000, you know, for you. But the thing is, like, they write in on the other end how many points you get per album. So they're determining how quickly you can pay back the money they gave you.
Facts.
Like, it's when you think about this, it's once again, read your contracts, ladies and gentlemen. Read your contracts.
Yeah, for sure. Read. I think that's just kind of what, I mean, we've talked about this a bazillion times too, but it's definitely know what's in those contracts.
I think it's dope that he made the point to say people need to hear this. Yeah. So that's good. So
because he alluded to it's in everybody's record deal. Yeah. So a lot of people may not know that.
So that's a good do your Googles moment. Go back and do your research, and you know, Stax just threw y'all a lob, really. In all actuality, that's a lob.
Because technically, you know, they could say, "Hey, Beyonce, this country album doesn't sound like Bootylicious or
Bootylicious." That's what you had to pick. Yeah. That's the joint.
It doesn't sound like Irreplaceable. Is that better?
There we go.
You know, I don't think we can count this towards your contract. Now, Beyonce probably has something that's so ironclad and individual.
Yeah, she actually had vocals on hers too, though.
This is true.
Because that goes. I mean, if that was the case, there's a lot of artists that wouldn't be able to provide out albums that they're supposed to because they're jumping genres, trying to catch a sound, essentially. I mean, you can say the same thing for Joshua Timberlake. His album before last was
That Man in the Wild or whatever that bullshit was.
And that did absolutely nothing. And he still was able to tour with that.
Yeah, because they wanted to hear all the other songs.
They wanted to hear Sexy back. They didn't want to hear Man in the Woods or whatever that was.
Yeah.
I wonder how they even quantify like 90%, you know, like how they can even... You know,
that's
like,
a good question.
From like a creative standpoint, like how can you even say that something is 90% like
the last one,
or something like that? I wonder because that seems like a very
it's got to have a basic metric though.
It's kind of easy because there's no lyrics.
No, for sure, his is super easy. But I mean, in general, like
rap album to rap album. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I feel like if that's the way that it's kind of worded, and I would be super curious to see a contract that says this. But if it does say something similar to that, it's like that is so subjectable.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god,
subjective. Excuse me.
Yeah, it is. So, it is 100%.
What happens when an artist becomes Christian and decides to do all You know what I'm saying?
Gospel
Gospel music instead of the secular music they were signed for.
Yeah.
Then what
I mean,
happens?
I'm not sure exactly what the situation was. I mean, I don't remember because I remember after Q-Tip put out Vibrant Thing and Breathe and Stop, and you know, he put out another called Kamal the Abstract.
Yeah.
You know, that most of you are like, what are you talking about? Yeah, it didn't really come out when it was supposed to. I think they issued it later because I remember I had some vinyl pieces on it. But, you know, it was him singing and like there's very little rapping on this album. And I'm not saying it was great, but, you know, when he came back with the Renaissance, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, a Q-Tip album.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure, especially at that time when people were still buying physical CDs and they're thinking about budgets and videos and rollouts, you know, when they got that Kamal the Abstract album, they were like, nah, we're good. You know, I remember Khalees, you know, her second album didn't come out in the United States at all. You know, so these record companies make certain decisions that, you know, because first of all, they want to keep you in those contracts as long as possible because you might get one with the fifth album. You know, so if we can keep you creating, you know, and keep you under, you know, to maybe you'll be able to pay back this loan.
Maybe
They're going to keep you around as long as possible, and they're going to do things that are in their favor every single time.